November 9, 1998, John F. Kennedy International Airport, Queens, New York. A rented Buick sits in the long-term parking lot, engine cold, doors locked. Inside, nothing. No luggage, no documents, no clues. The man who drove it here withdrew $160,000 in cash from multiple banks over the preceding 48 hours. Then, he walked into the most surveilled airport on American soil and disappeared. Completely. No boarding pass purchased under his name. No passport flagged at any gate, no body recovered, no sighting confirmed, no trace. His name is John Ruffo, and the United States government has been looking for him for over 25 years. To understand how a man vanishes with $65 million, you first have to understand how a man nobody noticed managed to steal it. John Ruffo was born in 1954 in Brooklyn, New York. Not into money, not into power, not into any world that would suggest what he would eventually become. He grew up unremarkable, studied business, and settled into a career as a computer consultant. Small clients, modest invoices, forgettable work. Neighbors described him as quiet. Colleagues called him pleasant. Nobody called him dangerous. That was his greatest weapon. By the early 1990s, Ruffo had built a small company and an ordinary reputation. But behind the ordinary facade, something extraordinary was taking shape. Ruffo began constructing an intricate web of shell companies, fictitious business ventures, and forged documents. The centerpiece was a company called True Hand LLC, a name borrowed, perhaps deliberately, from the German word for trust. Alongside it, he created Pegasus International and a constellation of other entities that existed only on paper. Letterheads were printed, office addresses were registered, phone lines were installed that rang to numbers Ruffo controlled. A phantom empire built from nothing, designed to look like everything. The target was not a corner bank, not a regional lender. Ruffo aimed at the top, Citibank, one of the largest financial institutions on earth. His pitch was simple, delivered with the quiet confidence of a man who understood that audacity, when dressed in a boring suit, looks like legitimacy. He presented what appeared to be massive purchase orders from Philip Morris and FCI WorldCom, two of America's most recognizable corporations. The orders showed these companies planned to buy tens of millions of dollars in computer equipment and technology services. All they needed was financing. The purchase orders were entirely fabricated, every signature forged, every letterhead counterfeit. Every phone number listed for verification routed back to Ruffo or his associates, who would answer the calls posing as corporate executives. When Citibank's loan officers called to confirm the deals, they heard exactly what they expected to hear. Yes, the orders are legitimate. Yes, the company is a valued vendor. Yes, the funds will be repaid upon delivery. It was theater, meticulous, rehearsed, flawless theater, and Citibank believed every word. The loans began flowing. Not thousands, not even millions in the way most people conceive of fraud. $350 million, approved, disbursed, transferred into accounts controlled by Ruffo and his network of phantom companies. It remains one of the largest individual bank frauds in American history. The money moved through layers of accounts, shell companies, and wire transfers designed to obscure its origin and destination. But Ruffo was not merely a conduit. Federal prosecutors would later document that he personally diverted approximately $65 million from the scheme, siphoning it through True Hand and Pegasus into accounts only he controlled. $65 million, enough to build a life, enough to build several lives, enough to disappear. But here's what makes this story different from every other fraud case. Most white-collar criminals get caught because they cannot stop spending. They buy the mansion in Miami, the yacht in Monaco, the fleet of cars that scream, "Look at me." Ruffo did not do this. He lived modestly. Same neighborhood. Same routines. Same unremarkable existence. The $65 million did not manifest in visible luxury. It went somewhere. Where, exactly, remains one of the enduring mysteries of American financial crime. Federal investigators traced millions through offshore accounts, but a staggering portion of the funds were never recovered. The money, like the man, simply vanished. The scheme unraveled in 1998, not because of brilliant detective work, but because of the one thing no con artist can fabricate forever: time. The purchase orders never resulted in actual deliveries. The loans came due. Citibank began asking questions that Ruffo's phantom phone lines could no longer answer. Auditors pulled threads, and the entire tapestry came apart. When investigators finally assembled the full picture, they could scarcely believe its scale. One man, operating from a modest office in New York, had convinced a syndicate of the world's most sophisticated banks to hand over $350 million based on documents he had created on a desktop printer. October 1998, Federal Courthouse, New York City. John Ruffo is convicted on 27 counts of bank fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering. The judge schedules sentencing for a later date and sets a surrender date of November 9th. Ruffo is to report to a federal prison facility in New Jersey. He is free on bail in the interim, free to walk the streets, free to make phone calls, free to plan. The prosecution does not object. After all, where would a convicted man with his face in the system possibly go? November 7th, 1998, 2 days before his surrender date. Ruffo begins withdrawing cash, not from one bank, from several. ATM's teller windows. Small enough amounts to avoid triggering immediate alerts, large enough to accumulate quickly. Over 48 hours, he pulls out roughly $160,000 in cash. He tells no one where he is going. He does not say goodbye to family, friends, or associates. He rents a car, a plain American sedan, and drives to JFK Airport. What happens next is nothing. That is the remarkable part. Nothing happens. No flight manifest carries his name. No security camera captures him boarding a plane. No customs agent stamps his passport. No taxi driver remembers his face. The car sits in long-term parking until someone notices it weeks later. The U.S. Marshals Service launches a fugitive investigation. They check every airport, every border crossing, every port. They contact Interpol. They issue alerts across 196 countries. They find absolutely nothing. John Ruffo has stepped off the edge of the observable world. The investigation that follows spans decades. The U.S. Marshals elevate Ruffo to their 15 most wanted fugitives list, a distinction reserved for the most dangerous and elusive criminals in America. His name sits alongside murderers, cartel leaders, and terrorists. He is the only white-collar criminal on the list. The placement speaks not to violence, but to something the Marshals find equally unsettling: the total absence of a trail. In an age of electronic surveillance, facial recognition, and global data sharing, one man has managed to produce 0 confirmed sightings in over 2 decades. Theories multiply in the vacuum of evidence. Some investigators believe Ruffo fled to a country without extradition treaties, perhaps in Southeast Asia, perhaps in the former Soviet states, perhaps in parts of Africa, where a man with cash and no questions can build a quiet life. Others believe the $65 million funded not just a disappearance, but a transformation, new identity documents, cosmetic surgery, a completely fabricated biography. With that amount of money and enough preparation time, a man does not just hide. He becomes someone else entirely. There is a darker theory. Some within law enforcement privately suspect Ruffo is dead, that he was killed, perhaps by associates who wanted their share of the missing millions, perhaps by criminal elements he engaged to facilitate his disappearance. A man carrying $160,000 in cash and the knowledge of where $65 million is hidden is both valuable and dangerous. Dead men tell no tales, and they also never collect their money. But there is no body, no evidence of violence, no witness to any confrontation. The theory remains exactly that. The Marshals pursue every lead with relentless patience. In 2016, a possible sighting surfaces. A facial recognition match at a hospital in a southern state suggests a man resembling an aged Ruffo sought medical treatment under a false name. Investigators descend on the location. The lead goes cold. The man cannot be located. The hospital records are incomplete. Another ghost in a case made entirely of ghosts. Twice more, similar leads emerge. Each time, the trail dissolves before it can be followed to its end. What haunts investigators most is the planning. This was not a panicked flight. Ruffo had weeks between his conviction and his surrender date. Weeks to move money, establish contacts, arrange transportation, and construct an exit strategy with the same meticulous care he used to build his fraud. The same mind that forged purchase orders convincing enough to fool Citibank's due diligence teams was now applied to the problem of permanent disappearance. And it worked. It is still working. Consider what it means to truly vanish in the modern world. Every credit card transaction is logged, every phone call triangulated. Every face captured by cameras at gas stations, airports, shopping centers, satellites photograph every square meter of the planet's surface. Social media algorithms identify faces in crowd photos. DNA databases expand daily. The architecture of surveillance grows more comprehensive with every passing year. And yet, John Ruffo remains invisible within it. Either he has found the one blind spot in the system, or he has ceased to exist as John Ruffo entirely. The banks eventually recovered a fraction of the stolen funds. Citibank wrote off hundreds of millions. Philip Morris and FCI were never actually defrauded. They were merely impersonated. But the reputational damage lingered. Careers ended. Loan officers who approved the deals were quietly dismissed. Internal review processes were overhauled. The case became a textbook study in due diligence failure, taught in business schools and banking seminars around the world. How did no one visit the offices? How did no one verify the purchase orders directly with Philip Morris? How did no one ask why a small computer consultant in Brooklyn was brokering deals worth hundreds of millions? The answer is the same answer that explains most great frauds. People see what they expect to see. Citibank expected a legitimate business transaction because the paperwork looked legitimate. The loan officers expected genuine corporate executives on the phone because the voices sounded authoritative and the numbers checked out. Ruffo understood that trust is not built on truth. It is built on presentation. Give people a story that fits their assumptions, and they will fill in the gaps themselves. He did not trick Citibank into ignoring red flags. He made sure there were no red flags to see. 25 years later, the U.S. Marshals Service maintains an active file. The case has never been closed. Ruffo would be in his early 70s now if he is alive. The $65 million, adjusted for inflation, would be worth well over $100 million if competently invested. Somewhere, perhaps, a quiet man lives a quiet life in a country where nobody asks questions. He pays cash, he avoids cameras, he has no digital footprint, no social media profile, no registered phone number. He is a gap in the data, a negative space in the shape of a person. The FBI teaches its recruits that every fugitive makes a mistake eventually. A phone call to a family member, a nostalgic visit to a childhood neighborhood, a medical emergency that forces them into a hospital database. Every fugitive, they say, leaves a thread that can be pulled. But John Ruffo has left no thread. No call, no visit, no emergency. He walked into JFK Airport on a November evening in 1998, carrying $160,000 and the knowledge of where $65 million was hidden. And he stepped out of the known world entirely. The greatest fraud was not the $350 million he stole from the banks. It was the second act, the one where he stole himself.